Hey everyone, this is part 4 of the foodmood app build that we're doing in Adalo. So just as a refresher, this is an app where you can pair up with somebody, you'll be presented some different food types and swipe, right or left, yes or no on whether or not that sounds good to you. And then at the end of it, you will be shown the matches with the person that you paired up with. So you'll kind of see what you agree sounds good and get to kind of choose from there. So we have so far set up the connection feature. So you connect with people using a unique code. We've got sessions set up. We've got this deck swiper component working. Now we're getting into some of the more design details and creating the user experience where we've got the core features down, but it's a little clunky. So we're trying to kind of just stitch everything together so it feels a little smoother when you're using it. All right, so right now we are going to jump into the results list and we're going to address the scenario where two people have gone through the whole deck and there are 0 matches. So it's probably an edge case, it's probably pretty rare that this would ever happen, but we do want to account for it because otherwise what would happen is they'd land on this screen, they'd see no results here, and it would feel like the app just broke. So here's what we're going to do to address that. First of all, I have a Lottie animation that I found on Lottie files that I'm going to put in here, and we're just going to show it if this list of matches ends up being empty. So let's add a Lottie component really quick. We'll just drop it in right here. And then I have my JSON off screen. I'm just going to copy and paste it right there. And you can see it's this little shopping bag that's breathing in and out and it looks like it's sleeping. So I've adjusted the colors to kind of match the app that we've got going. So I'm just going to push this up to the bottom of the list. And now what we can do is set some conditional visibility. So we'll go into the Lottie first of all and change the visibility and only make it sometimes visible. And now here we're going to look at the current session and we're going to go down to mutual food types and choose count. So what we're doing here is we're only going to show this animation if the count of matches is set to 0. We can actually, just in case anything bad happened to the app, we could account for less than or equal to 0, because obviously if there somehow were less than 0, it would also be no matches. So we can use that and click done. We'll just make sure the animation is set to loop. It is, so that is perfect. Okay, and now for the list, we also want to set some conditional visibility. So we'll go up here, choose sometimes visible, and we're going to do the exact opposite. So we're going to go down to matches, count, and then we're going to do greater than 0 as our visibility option. So we'll click done on that. And now what should happen is if you get to the end and there are no matches, you'll just see this Lottie animation up here in the place of the list, which is what we want. You won't see the animation if there are any matches at all. So let's move on to the next part. Now we need something that the user can do if they run into this scenario where there were, no matches. So first of all, I like the animation, but it's not very helpful if they don't know what in the world it means, and chances are they won't. So we're just going to put some help text in. We'll do, looks like there were no matches. And then let's do like a try again question. We'll put this on its own line. And then let's also, I forget that it's up here now. Let's align that to the center. And let's add a button. I'm just going to copy one of these. Let's see, that's a form. Do I have any buttons? Here we go. We'll just copy this one. Let's zoom back in so we can see what we're doing. And change this. Let's do start over. We can shrink it down a little bit too. I'm going to edit this also. I don't love that the text is so much shorter. So sometimes I like to fill it in just a little bit. And I think that looks pretty good. We do need to get rid of the old action from the button we copied, but that's not bad. So here's one thing. Instead of setting the visibility on this Lottie, this was my bad, I should make that always visible. And let's just group all of these together. We can make it a group, call it empty state or something like that. And then let's set the visibility on the whole group at once. Otherwise, we'd have to do it for all 3 items. So we're going to current session, mutual food type count, and then we did less than or equal to 0. Okay, so now we need an action for the start over button. So when somebody clicks on start over, I think what I want to do is actually just delete this session. So we haven't really decided how we're going to have people interacting with sessions. We've just got this placeholder list up here for now. But if we do decide to list them out, it wouldn't really make sense to list a session that had 0 matches because they're not going to need to reference it for anything. All they would do is click on it and see that there were no matches there. So I think what we'll do is, first of all, when somebody clicks on start over, we're going to delete the current session. So we'll just delete it. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. Delete session. And then let's also link back. Okay. We're going back. Let's, instead of back, just so we can kind of keep track of where we're going here, let's do link to new session. And let's give it like a unique, let's do like a slide down for its transition here. Okay, now here is something interesting, right? So we're creating this link and we can see that we're missing a session, right? Because we're going to this new session screen, but we've just deleted our current session. So that's gone. And we're also missing the current user. So that's unavailable too. We want to make sure that we're passing those values to new session. And so let's see here. Maybe the move isn't deleting the session right off the bat. Maybe what we need to do first is get the new session started. So let's play around with this a little bit. So the problem is when we create a new session, we need to also include the user too. So we can get it from the current session, which is the one that's coming from new session. So we're working on a session, it shows up here, it's empty, we create a new one, and we borrow the user from the old session. So that's good. We could go ahead and create the new session that way. And then let's just add an in-between link. Let's delete that. Later in our naming scheme and when we kind of tighten up the experience there. So let's get rid of that screen actually, and let's just link to new screen or new session. Oops, wrong one. Link to new session, and we'll do a slide down. Okay. I think that'll work. So let's try it out. We're going to hop into preview here and log out and back in just so we can keep track. We'll do test 1 at test.com. So that's our first test user. We've got one connection right now, so we'll tap on that. And then I think this is test 2. We can double check. Let's just say no on everything. Say we're really picky. Wouldn't make a lot of sense to use this app. Just say you're not hungry, right? Okay. We'll address why this is showing up here, but that is good. It is showing up because there's no matches right now. And then let's also see who this Laura Lou is. Test 2, yeah. Okay, so let's log in as test 2 now. Okay. And we should have our session, which is great. So we'll tap on that. And then let's say yes to a few things. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We can just go through this list. Okay, great. So we still have our no matches screen. We can move this down a little bit too. So let's just do that really quick. Let's make our screen a little bigger. We'll move this down just a bit. And let's address the fact that when the first person gets through the list, they're seeing the results screen before the second person has even made it through the list, right? Which is not ideal. We don't want that. So we do need an in-between screen that kind of just works like a waiting or loading kind of screen. So I'm going to click on add screen and let's just do, actually, let's do the modal one. And we'll call this waiting on other person. Okay, so I'm going to drag this down. And this is where we can do something kind of interesting with Adalo. So let's first of all, let's add some text. We need to say something like, we don't have to say your connection per se, because we can actually grab some dynamic data. Let's see, I'm going to need to give myself some data first, sorry. So when somebody gets to the end of the deck, we've got the link to results screen. Let's switch this to only sometimes happen, and let's have it only happen when, here's where we need to go back to our database because we need to add something here. Let's add a property, let's do a number, and let's call this completed decks. So here's what we're doing. We're saying that when somebody gets to the end of a deck, we're only going to link to the results screen if the current session, let's see, current session completed decks, here we go, is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, and then we also need another action that updates the current session with the completed decks equaling, what we're going to do here is do completed decks plus 1. Oops, I did that wrong. We need a new formula. So we can do functions, not that. Or maybe I can just put it in here. Okay, let's try that. Completed decks plus 1. There we go. That's right. So what we're doing is when somebody gets to the end of the deck, it's going to set that completed decks number on the session to whatever the current number is plus 1. So if you're the first person to complete it, it makes that number 1. If you're the second person to complete it, it makes it 2. And then what we're doing is we're only linking to the results screen if that number is greater than or equal to 2. So if it's not, what we're doing is we're linking to this waiting on the other person. We'll add the modal transition. And this is where we're going to build our kind of waiting screen out. So now we can go in, we can edit this text. We can say magic text. We can do current session. Oh, I was going to do the other user, but actually there's, oh no, we can still do that. Let's do this. We'll do user 1 full name is still deciding when they're done. You can view your matches. Okay, let's make that a little bigger actually. And now what we're going to do is we're going to double this up. Right? So we've got the same thing. And instead of user 1, we're just going to make this user 2. Right? So now, here's the cool part. We can do some conditional visibility trick. We'll do change visibility. And on the first one, since it's going to show user 1, we only want to see that if the logged in user is user 2. So we'll get the current session user 2. We're just matching up their emails. And then for the other one, we only want to see it if the logged in user is equal to user 1, right? So we're only going to see one of these at a time, and it's going to change depending on which user in the session is viewing it, which should be pretty cool because it'll kind of personalize the experience here. Now what we want to do is we need a button. First of all, let's just copy that over here. Okay, so we've got our button, and we want to make this into a list. So why do we want the button to be a list? We want it to be a list because that's going to give us the option to show the button based on an event in the database. So if we set the conditional visibility on this, it wouldn't automatically show up as soon as the other person has finished filling out the deck, right? So they would have to leave the screen and come back, and that's when Adalo looks and says, is this condition met? And if it is, they'll show the thing, but it doesn't happen while they're just sitting on the screen. However, with the list feature, let's just go ahead and click make list here. With the list feature, we have the option. I think I need to connect it before I get the option, but this is pretty easy. We'll just make it a list of sessions here. We have the option, there it is, it's under advanced options, to auto refresh the list when a user adds new items. So that means that this is going to be constantly looking at the list, and as soon as there's a new item, it will pop up and it'll show you the list item, right? So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to filter this, and we're going to only show sessions, right, where the completed decks are greater than or equal to 2. So as soon as that condition is met, since it's a list item and we have this option selected, it should pop up. Okay? We can also even shrink this down just so we're seeing a more accurate preview here. We can shrink our whole modal down. I think all of these are grouped. Oh, not quite. Let's ungroup this and add the button in. Okay, great. So this should work out, but we can always test it just to be sure, right? So here I'm going to go into preview mode, and we are, let's see, let's just create a new session with the first test here. And let's go ahead and do a no match test, right? So I'm going to be the picky one, say no to everything. And now we see this screen, right? We see that Joe Schmo is still deciding. When they're done, you can view your matches. So now what I'm going to do is on my phone, I'm going to log in to the foodmood app. I have it downloaded. It's a PWA, so it's already on my phone. I'm going to just pull it up real quick. All right, so I've logged in as Joe Schmo, and I'm going to the sessions here, and I'm just, choosing yes or no on some of these different options. And here I'm at the last one. So I'm just going to talk live here. You just have to trust me that I really am looking at my phone and doing this. I'm going to swipe the last option. And there we go. We've got not the right text on there. It says start over, but we do have our button, right? It just popped up. And on my phone, it went straight to the results screen where it's saying there were no matches, right? So we need to fix our button, but it is showing that the visibility kind of workaround or hack that we've done here is working, right? So let's go into the button. We'll do something like see results. And let's link it to results. Okay, awesome. So we've got our empty states set up. We have our waiting screen, if you will, set up and ready to go. And I think this definitely helps with the experience when it comes to swiping through items and getting to your results. So hopefully this was a helpful tutorial. And if you have any questions, please let me know.